Stay home this Sunday. My new wife thinks you'll ruin everything for everyone. That's what my little brother wrote in our family chat. I wish I could tell you it hurt, but honestly I'd gotten used to it. What really made my heart sink was seeing all the little thumbs up buttons pop up. Mom clicked like. Dad clicked like. Even Grandma did too. Nobody said, "That's mean," or "Don't talk like that." They just agreed with him. Hello everyone. My name is Maya Chen. I'm 27 years old, and I guess my family thinks I'm not good enough to come to their party. I looked at my phone screen for a really long time, thinking about what to say back. Part of me wanted to call my brother and ask him why he said that. Part of me wanted to cry. But the quiet voice inside me, the one they'd trained to stay small and quiet, just typed back one word. Bae. Then I put my phone in my drawer because somewhere deep down, I already understood the truth. Nothing I ever did would make them think I was good enough. Not pretty enough, not quiet enough, not married to someone rich like my brother was. That night, I sat in my small apartment, the one I'd paid for all by myself, and I looked at a picture from my brother's wedding day. Everyone was smiling in it. Everyone except me because I wasn't even in the photo. They probably thought I would feel ashamed and hide away forever. They probably thought I'd spend the whole weekend crying in my room. But what they didn't know was something very important. They didn't know that the place my brother was coming to visit the very next day belonged to me. And I was completely ready for them. Sunday morning felt just like any normal day, but I picked out my clothes very carefully. A dark blue jacket and pants that matched, a soft white shirt underneath, and small gold earrings. I looked calm and strong and completely fine. At exactly 10:15 in the morning, the shiny elevator doors opened downstairs in my building. My helper Marcus sent me a message on my phone. They just walked in. I smiled to myself. Perfect. My brother Tommy came through the door first, holding hands with his brand new wife Vanessa. She looked like she thought she was the fanciest person in the whole world. She wore sparkly diamond earrings, really strong perfume that you could smell from far away, and she talked in a voice that sounded sharp and mean. But then her eyes saw me sitting in my big glass office in the corner, and she stopped walking completely. "Wait, you have a job here," she said with her mouth hanging open. I stood up and closed my computer slowly and calmly. "No, Vanessa. I don't have a job here. This whole place is mine. I own every single part of it." Tommy's eyes got really big like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. "What are you talking about?" he said. "Welcome to Chen Creative Solutions." "That's the name of my company," I said, reaching out my hand to shake hers. "I think your business, Vanessa's Fancy Home Designs, signed a really big contract with us a few months ago. You agreed to work with us for 3 whole years." Marcus walked up next to me carrying a folder full of papers. "Would you like some coffee, Miss Chen?" he asked. All the color drained right out of Vanessa's face. Tommy's smile disappeared completely. "I thought your sister worked at some tiny office doing boring stuff," Tommy whispered to his wife, but I could still hear him. "Almost," I said in a calm, quiet voice. "Actually, I run a company that works with businesses all across the country. And your wife's company is one of the smaller ones I help." Vanessa's mouth got tight and angry looking. "You should have told me this before," she said. Tommy's face turned red like a tomato. "You told me she didn't even have a real job," he said to Vanessa. I smiled just a tiny bit and pointed toward the big meeting room with a long table. "Should we start our meeting now? We charge money for every hour we spend working, so we should probably begin." That was the exact moment when she screamed. Not because she was angry, but because she finally understood something really important. She'd been mean to someone who was actually her boss. And now she realized exactly who she'd been rude to. Vanessa's scream bounced off all the glass walls. "This can't be real. This can't be happening." Marcus's helper stopped writing and wasn't sure if she should say sorry or just run away and hide. My workers all tried not to smile, but I could see some of them grinning. They'd all heard about the mean text message I got the night before. That text had given everyone the reason to enjoy what was happening today. I sat down in the big chair at the front of the long table. It was the same chair where important people had once told me I was too young to be in charge. Now, that same power that used to scare me felt comfortable and right. Tommy tried to fix the situation. Maya, look, we didn't really mean it like that. We just... Stop, I said softly but firmly. He went completely silent right away. That had never happened before. I turned and looked straight at Vanessa, who was sitting stiff as a board with her arms crossed. Her pride was breaking into pieces like thin glass. Your company has been in the news lately, and not for good reasons. I began. People online are saying you didn't pay the workers who helped you. Our job is to help fix that problem and make people forget about it. Her eyes got really wide. You knew about all of that? She asked quietly. Of course I did, I answered calmly. It's my job to know the secrets that people try to hide under their fancy outsides. The air in the room felt heavy with meaning. Every single time my mother had told me to be quiet and know my place. Every single family dinner I wasn't invited to. This moment right now gave me back something much more important than getting back at them. Gave me back my respect for myself. When the meeting finally ended, Vanessa wouldn't even look at me. Tommy waited by the door, not sure what to do. Maya, are you coming to dinner at Mom and Dad's house tonight? He asked nervously. I looked right into his eyes. Nobody invited me, remember? And before he could say anything back, I added, but maybe next time, you'll think twice before making fun of someone in the family chat when that person is actually your boss. All the color left his face as the door closed behind them both. When I got back to my apartment that evening, everything was peaceful and quiet. It was the kind of quiet that felt like I'd earned it. But my phone kept buzzing over and over again. Missed phone calls from Tommy. 2 text messages that said, "Hey sis," but didn't really mean it. And 1 really long message from Mom. Your brother says there's been a big misunderstanding. You know how his wife gets emotional sometimes. She doesn't mean to be hurtful. Please come to dinner tonight. We're family. Family. That's the same word they used when they left me out of everything. When they laughed at me behind my back. But I was curious. I wanted to see what would happen. So I decided to go. Not because I wanted to forgive them, but because I wanted to see how fast people change their story when they realize you're actually powerful and important. At exactly 7:45, I walked up to my parents' house. The same house where someone once told me, "You'll never be successful because you're too stubborn and you don't listen." Vanessa opened the front door with a smile that was way too big to be real. Maya, I'm so happy you came, she said, but her voice was shaking a little bit. I could almost hear what she was really thinking. We need her help now. Dinner was super awkward from the very first bite of food. Dad tried to act like everything was totally normal. So, I guess business is going pretty well for you, he asked. Very busy, I replied, cutting my meat slowly and carefully. Tommy's company's big announcement happens next week, actually. Vanessa almost spit out her drink. Wait, what did you just say? I looked over at Tommy. You didn't tell her the truth. Yes. My company handles all the public announcements and planning for your construction business deal. It's actually one of the biggest projects we're working on right now. The silence at the table was wonderful. Nobody said a single word. Mom forced out a fake little laugh. Well, I always knew you would do amazing things, sweetie, she said. Did you really think that? I asked quietly. Because I remember someone telling me I'd never make it through college because I wasn't smart enough. Nobody spoke after I said that. The same family that used to make fun of me and treat me like I was nothing now sat frozen at the dinner table. Or really, it was my table now because I was the one they all needed, even if they didn't want to admit it. And they were just starting to figure that out. The next morning I was back at my office super early in the morning. I felt focused and centered and finally in control of my own life. Marcus came into my office holding a white envelope. This just got delivered by a special messenger, he said. It's from your parents. I opened it really slowly. Inside was a formal letter written on fancy paper. My father was asking me to delay the big business announcement because Tommy's business partners were getting worried and nervous. The note ended with these words. Do it for the family. You owe us at least that much. Owe them. I stared at the paper until my hands started shaking. Not because I was angry, but because of an old familiar feeling. The same feeling from all those years of being put down, ignored, and replaced by the better children. Marcus spoke very carefully. Do you want me to send this to our lawyers? He asked. I nodded my head yes. And schedule a big press meeting for Thursday. We're making the announcement exactly when we planned. We're not changing anything. When Tommy came storming into my office an hour later, all his fake niceness was gone. Have you lost your mind? He yelled. I asked you to help me out. No, Tommy, I said in a calm voice. You didn't ask. You demanded it like I'm supposed to just do whatever you want. He made a mean sound. You think running some company makes you so powerful and important. We're family, Maya. That's supposed to mean something. I looked right at him with the kind of calmness that only comes from being hurt for a really long time. It used to mean something, I said. Before you decided your wife's feelings were more important than your sister's feelings. He froze completely still. Vanessa showed up behind him looking pale and scared. Tommy, let's just leave. Let's go, she whispered. I took a step closer and made my voice quieter. I'm not trying to destroy you or ruin your life. I'm teaching you what respect actually feels like. The kind of respect you can't buy with money or fake with pretty words. He looked at me like he was seeing me for the very first time in his whole life. Because for the first time ever, he actually was seeing me. The woman standing in front of him wasn't the little sister he used to tease and mock. She was the CEO, the boss, that he couldn't afford to be rude to anymore. By Thursday, the press meeting was on every news station and website everywhere. The headlines said things like, Chen Creative Solutions wins $12 million construction partnership led by CEO Maya Chen. My brother's face in all the pictures, frozen with a fake smile that didn't reach his eyes, told the whole story. He hadn't realized something really important. The business deal, the one his partners were betting all their money on, only existed because my company made the plan for it. Without me and my work, the whole thing would have fallen apart and disappeared months ago. That evening, Mom called my phone. Maya, what you're doing right now is just cruel and mean. You're making your brother look bad in front of everyone, she said. Mom, I said evenly, keeping my voice steady. You clapped and liked it when he made me look bad in a group chat. I didn't embarrass him. I just stopped hiding who I really am. Her voice got harder and meaner. You've changed into someone different. I had to change, I said back. You wouldn't have survived being the family joke for as many years as I did. Silence stretched out between us on the phone for a long time. Then she said in a whisper, Your father's heart is weak. He can't handle this kind of stress and worry. He didn't seem too weak or sick when he was laughing at me last week, I replied. But don't worry. The business deal is still happening. Business is business, and I keep my promises. The next day, Vanessa came to my office by herself. Her makeup was smudged and smeared. All her mean confidence was completely gone. I didn't know the truth, she said quietly, looking down at the floor. Tommy told me you were just some bitter older sister who was jealous because you never got married. I didn't know you built this whole company yourself. I looked at her carefully, studying her face. And what would you have done differently if you knew? Yes. I wouldn't have sent that mean text message, she answered. I smiled just a tiny bit. Then think of this as your lesson. Words are powerful and heavy. Sometimes they cost way more than you think they will. When she left my office, I saw my reflection in the big glass walls. I looked calm, unshaken, and finally respected by people. For the first time in my whole life, the silence that came after felt like something I deserved. The next Sunday, the same family group chat lit up again on my phone. Mom wrote, Family dinner at 7 o'clock tonight. Everyone needs to be there. Dad reacted with a thumbs up. Tommy sent back, Of course I'll be there. Then there was a pause. Then another message. Maya. I typed one single word. Busy. And I hit send. By 7 o'clock that evening, I was sitting on the roof of the Chen Tower, my building, drinking hot tea while my workers moved around quietly doing their jobs. Down below on the street, I could almost imagine my family sitting at dinner pretending everything was perfectly normal and fine. At 7:48, Marcus walked over with a big smile on his face. "You're going to want to see this," he said. He handed me his tablet computer. There was a post online from a news reporter. Breaking news. Chen Creative Solutions named Business Leader of the Year by the National Women's Council. The picture showed me looking calm, confident, and strong, standing in front of the same company they all thought was just my little office job. My phone started buzzing like crazy instantly. Dad texted, "We're so proud of you, Maya." Mom wrote, "You should have told us about this, sweetheart." Tommy sent, "You just made our whole family look bad by not telling us." I stared at all their messages. The same pattern happening over and over again. They were only proud of me when my success made them look good to other people. Marcus raised one eyebrow. "Are you going to write back to them?" he asked. I smiled and put my phone face down on the table. Nope. Let them sit with it and think about it. Because real power wasn't about yelling and screaming anymore. It was about choosing to stay silent and knowing that they finally understood what my silence actually meant. That night, I stood looking out at all the city lights spread out below me. My city. My name glowing on a tall building in a skyline they once said I'd never reach or touch. For the first time in my life, I didn't want or need their approval anymore. I already had something so much better than that. I had peace inside my heart. 1 month later, I was standing on a stage at a fancy charity event talking to hundreds of people about starting businesses and never giving up. Camera flashes went off everywhere. People clapped really loud. And somewhere in the crowd near the back, I saw 3 faces I recognized. My parents and Tommy. They look smaller now. Not smaller in their bodies, but smaller in their importance. The same people who once made me feel like I was absolutely nothing were now uncomfortable and awkward under the light of my success. After the event ended, my mother came up to me first. "Maya, your speech was so beautiful and inspiring," she said softly, trying to sound sweet. "We've been wrong about a whole lot of things." My father nodded his head stiffly, like his neck was made of wood. "You've done really well for yourself," he said. I smiled politely at them both. "Thank you. I did exactly what you taught me to do. I stopped depending on anyone but myself." Tommy stood there last, with his hands shoved deep in his pockets. "Vanessa really wants to say sorry to you. She said she shouldn't have written what she did," he mumbled. "I know she does," I said gently. "That's exactly why I didn't destroy her company when I easily could have." He blinked really fast, looking confused. "Wait, you mean you could have?" I leaned in a little bit closer. "Let's just say your next few business contracts went through successfully because I decided not to block them or stop them." He looked at me completely differently then. Not as a little sister to make fun of and tease, but as a woman he'd badly underestimated and misjudged. I started walking away toward the exit, then I turned back around one more time. "Tommy, do you remember that text message? The one where you said I'd make the whole party stink?" He looked down at his shoes, looking ashamed. "Yeah, I remember it." I smiled calmly and peacefully. Well, it turns out that success smells a whole lot like fresh, clean air. The kind of air you only get to breathe when you rise up above the people who tried to choke you and hold you down. As I walked out of the fancy ballroom, I could hear applause echoing behind me. But it wasn't the sound of clapping that stayed in my mind and heart. It was the silence that followed after. The silence that comes with real power. The silence that means you don't need to explain yourself anymore. The silence that says you've already won. I pushed through the glass doors and stepped out into the cool night air. My car was waiting at the curb, and Marcus held the door open for me. "Home, Miss Chen?" he asked with a knowing smile. "Actually," I said, looking up at my building one more time, watching my name glow against the dark sky. "Let's take the long way. I want to see the whole city tonight." As we drove through streets I used to walk alone, past the college where people said I'd fail, past the old apartment where I cried myself to sleep wondering if I'd ever be enough, I realized something important. I'd spent so many years waiting for my family to see my worth. Waiting for them to apologize. Waiting for them to finally understand. But tonight, driving through my city, past my buildings, toward my future, I understood the most important lesson of all. I didn't need them to see it anymore. 'Cause I finally saw it myself. And that was more than enough. The car turned the corner, and my reflection appeared in the window. For the first time, I didn't see the girl they'd rejected. I saw the woman I'd become despite them. And she was absolutely beautiful,